when the Bible talks about worldliness, it talks about actually two different things. There's a word for the age, and there's a word for the kind of reality that we live in. Cosmos and aeon. Aeon would be the age, and cosmos would be the known world, so to speak. And it's really an area that I think is pretty important for us as believers because I think it's a very important thing for especially now on both from both of these points of view. I mean, on the one hand, the age is the current thinking, the current culture, the way that things are done and looked at, and the sort of spirit behind the times we live in. And on the other hand, with the cosmos side of it, it's more like the things of this life, the things of this world that we are attracted to and want to have and want to be part of. But anyway, the point is that the being a Christian, when Jesus says, you know, the kingdom of heaven doesn't come by perceiving, it's not here or there, but it's within you. He's kind of describing the experience we have once we're born again. He's saying, you know, you've kind of crossed over into a different world, so to speak. And your way of perceiving this world and perceiving who you are in this world has changed. That's because the kingdom of heaven has come upon you. And it might be seen almost like there's this great vast kingdom of light, the kingdom of heaven, and it's kind of everywhere, but it can't be seen, it can't be perceived. It's not perceived while we're in the darkness of this world. But when we find the door, which is Jesus Christ, we step into this world of light, the kingdom of heaven, and we ideally start moving towards God, who is sort of, figuratively speaking, far away, and we're moving towards him, but we are now aware of him and he's aware of us, so to speak. But what happens is that a lot of Christians come through that door and they linger at that. They linger kind of almost with one foot in the previous place and one foot in this one, and they don't press on into this new place that we've become aware of. And that's because we're still worldly. We are pulled by the things of this world and the spirit of this world, and it's really problematic. I mean, it's actually lethal. When you have Moses was probably the most worldly, in a sense, of the whole group that left in the Exodus, as in he'd had it all. He'd had the cream of the experience of Egypt, which is figuratively the world. And he'd done it. I mean, he'd had everything you can have, but he was the only one, well, one of the few that really didn't look back upon it. He he was as close to God as you could get. He was not looking back towards the world. Whereas the people that were with him, the biggest problem they had was God wasn't enough. They knew he had him, but they kept going back to the things of Egypt, the things of the world, the things that they felt they missed because they'd kind of, yeah, they'd gone through that door, but they kept lingering at the threshold, and they were destroyed. And 1 Corinthians 10 talks about these things. It's probably one of the main passages that I would say really spells out that believers can lose their salvation. Probably, to me, it's one of the most important passages in this area, because it's making a point that by using the Exodus, that's saying this has parallels with our passage as believers, and there are many similarities. And basically, if we don't, like the Israelites, if we complain, if we, go to idolatry, if we look back, if we, all these things, he talks about how they were destroyed. So he's making a point that there's a journey to be made, and that journey is towards something, the kingdom, the promised land. And this comes up all the time, do not love the world, the things of the world. It comes up in the book of John, it comes up in the 1 John, it also comes up it comes up in Romans 12. Do not be transformed, do not conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. But in book of Revelation, the Laodicean church, which I really do believe is to do with the church of this age, basically, their lukewarmness is to do with having a foot in both worlds. I mean, you can't be on fire and then be, for example, laughing and enjoying yourself in the company of unbelievers and knocking back glasses of wine. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like the two things are incompatible. That's why it's lukewarm. I mean, there's many. That's a very, very random example. I mean, but the point is that God wants us to journey forth into this new kingdom, this world that we've become part of. Yes, we're here, we can see this world, we can look, we can engage, but we engage from the standpoint of being not of this world anymore. We have come out of it. And lukewarm Christians, this is something that it's God that spelt this out to me, and I sometimes am reluctant to say it, but lukewarm Christians go to hell. That's the really the long and short of it, because they've never really, picked up their knapsack and made the journey. They are still in love with this present world, and they don't understand that it's not about pretending to be some kind of hermit and being miserable and all that kind of thing. It's not about stopping working. It's not about even making things difficult for yourself necessarily, but it is about going into the kingdom to such an extent that the things of this world drop off. They lose meaning. They lose meaning. Everything loses meaning. Everything should lose meaning, as in, you know, people have this thing where they go, oh, but the things of this world are the things that God's made. Forget all that. Everything should be with a view to that you are part of something completely different, completely radically different, and nothing in this world compares. You know, if you're into food, food that should lose its appeal. If you're into books and writing and art, it should lose its appeal. If you're into whatever you're into, whatever it is, sport, it should just drop off. It should just lose its appeal. This happens naturally to people. Sometimes people, you know, they have kids and just certain things, like maybe they were into like, you know, cars or something, and they just don't have time for it anymore, and they just lose interest. And it's like, but that's what um, the faith should do to you. And but anyway, this worldliness is lethal. Um, it will destroy you. He will spew you out his mouth. That's the way that. That's exactly. He's not. That's what he says, and that's what he. And you know, there's no two ways about it. People sometimes think that it doesn't really mean what it says, but I think it. You know, it's fair to say if it doesn't mean what it says, then you can't trust anything in the Bible. It means what it says, and there's a reluctance with some people just to let it die and to go to this new thing that God's got. And it is there, and it does grow, and it becomes more and more substantial the further you journey into that new land. I'm not trying to be mystical. I'm not trying to say that there's some strange other mystical experience that, you know, nobody's that's outside of the biblical experience. That is the experience of pressing into God. It's like when you get saved and you have that first, if you've had a kind of, you know, conversion where it's been at least, you know, dramatic enough that you know something major has happened, you know, it's like you've gone through that door, which is Christ, and there's a burst of light because that new reality has become made clear to you, and so that feeling you get of something's happened, this new, that's because it's like you've been in a dark room and someone's turns the lights on. You have to acclimatise. But then what people do is they do acclimatise a bit, and they kind of almost get a bit sort of complacent about what has taken place in them, and they think that's enough, and they think, yeah, but I'll still like my worldly music and things I do and hobbies that I have and pastimes and all this kind of stuff, and they don't realise that they can grow into that thing that first caused that experience. I know people that harken back to that day as the high point. Like there's never been anything since then. That kind of shocks me, but it's true, because there are, in a sense, higher mountain experiences, so to speak, and yeah, there's something that deepens in you. I think that's what it means by growing in the grace. You know, as you kind of press on, there's a depth and a understanding and something that comes. It's also why some people, I know that, you know, they just say, I'm finished with this life. I just want God to take me. I just want to, because they've kind of, you know, they've got so far with it in a sense, and nothing really appeals anymore about being here. They just so want to be with the Lord. They want to be in heaven, but of course that's a bit of an unhealthy attitude. You know, you got to kind of like try and fulfill the call that God's got for you. But anyway, that's my thoughts on that. May Jesus bless you.